and mighty the walls around thee. Great, great and mighty the gates beside thee. Great, great and mighty the walls around thee. Great, great and mighty the gates beside thee.
Kindly take your seats. Yes, it is a very good afternoon. We welcome you to Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli's inaugural professorial lecture at Makerere University. Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli is a member of faculty under the College of Humanities and Social Sciences at Makerere University. Ladies and gentlemen, could we give Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli a thunderous hand clap? Yes, thank you for ensuring that we are convened here today to listen to you. In the audience, we are honored that this occasion, the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, is going to preside over the entire occasion, but I'm also glad that we have the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic Affairs, Professor Sarah Sally. Thank you. We also have the Academic Registrar, Professor Winza Mukadas. May I humbly request all the professors, I've used the word humbly, professors and associate professors in the room to kindly rise. Yes, thank you for being part of Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli's inaugural professorial lecture. And in a very special way, let us also welcome our very own, when I say very own, he's an alumnus of Makerere University, but he also loves Makerere University dearly, and that is Prime Minister Emeritus, Right Honorable Patrick Amama Mbabazi. And in a very special way, we also congratulate you upon a journey. We've understood that you were recently called, and you have a particular role in the church. At some point, you'll tell us. And we also congratulate you in another special way for Madam. Yes. Congratulations. We are glad that God has been with you. You've served this country diligently, and you're continuing to rise and serve with a lot of grace and humility. To all our students in the room, I'm glad that most of you are from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, and you're, yes. This is supposed to inspire us so that we also rise and become professors in particular disciplines. In the interest of time, permit us to introduce ourselves, then we follow the program as it has been shared. We are going to work as two moderators or MCs. Kindly join me here. So for today's Professor Phillip Apuuli's inaugural professorial lecture, we are glad that this is the beautiful team that you've selected to moderate the proceedings. My name is Rita Namisanga. I'm a member of staff at Makerere University, but an alumnus from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. Yes, thank you. And then I'm honored that I'll be working with Dr. Rita Nakanjako. So the name today is Rita. Dr. Rita Nakanjako from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, but she could say a word.
Good afternoon, everyone. The only thing she missed is I am from the School of Social Sciences, where Professor Apuuli comes from.
Oh, Okay. School of Social Sciences, oye. College of Humanities and Social Sciences, oye. Makerere University, oye. Yes. Thank you very much. Permit me to invite the Chair Organizing Committee, that is Dr. Isaac Tibasima, Department of Literature, Makerere University.
Rita is reminding me I'm from the best school in the university, the School of Languages, Literature, and Communication. The Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of academic affairs, my principal and all principals present, deans, heads of departments, colleagues, and all invited guests. We are truly grateful to see you here. Of all the jobs that my principal has given me, this has been the toughest. And I say it because while we had this planned for earlier on, we had to cancel it, and Phillip simply said, it's okay. And then we finally told him it was 20th, and then told him it was 21st. So it felt like we kept pushing this until we finally are here. Would like to thank Professor Apuuli for the commitment to making sure that this really happens. But most of all, as an organizing team, we heartily congratulate you upon this achievement. I've worked with the team, and I don't know if some are in here. Rita Nakanjako is up here with me. There's Dr. Levis Mugumia, please stand up. There's Dr. Zayid Sechito. I don't know if he's in the room. Yes, he's there. We also had Duncan and Esther. They are running all over this place. In absentia, we had Professor Edgar Nautanyi, who is away currently, but he has been part and parcel of this organization. And I would like to thank everyone that has been part of it. I would like to thank especially our communications team with Eric and Jen, who have been helpful for us to get this far. Above all, we would like to thank everyone that is here. Thank you for making it a point to be here. And I am a student of narrative. Whatever Apuuli is going to present, I look at it as narrative. But also for me, it's important because it helps us to understand how we think about the world, how we think about politics, but also how we think about interstate relations. And so, every one of us here has something to learn, and I'm truly, truly sure that we are going to get out of this place inspired. And for those of us who have not given their inaugural lectures from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, the DVC is all of us who have, all of those who have not delivered their inaugural lectures, please reach out to us. We are willing to support you. Apuuli's is the first. The mistakes we've made, we have learned from, and we are sorry for all those mistakes, but we are sure we're going to get better going forward. Thank you very much. Welcome and enjoy this experience of an inaugural lecture at the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tibasima. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome the Dean, School of Social Sciences, Dr. Justus Twesige, to give us his remarks.
Master of Ceremonies, allow me a ride on the protocol you've already laid down. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a special privilege as the Dean of the School of Social Sciences to welcome all of you here as the Dean of the School of Social Sciences. It is a huge privilege that we are here to witness a special occasion to welcome and congratulate our senior colleague, distinguished Professor Apuuli Kasaija. In a special way, I would like to say thank you to the top management led by the Vice Chancellor and your team for providing an enabling environment for our colleague to grow to the highest level of an academic achievement. I would like to congratulate Professor Kasaija's colleagues, especially some of his classmates. If they're not classmates, I think they were just around the same time. And special mention to our DVC, Academic Affairs. This is your cohort. And Professor Omach Paul, you must be all inspired that your colleague really has done it up to possibly the very last ladders of academic growth. And now to my fellow lecturers in the School of Social Sciences, we are honored and we are lucky that our colleague has really grown up to this point. Professor Kasaija is a good mentor, is a good leader, and for us who are still down there growing up, we know that now that we are going to get up to the top. For you have cleared this path for all of us, and we know that you are going to continue doing the excellent job you are doing of mentoring us and inspiring us to make sure that we succeed. A special thanks to our partners. We have so many partners who we work collaboratively with, some from the UPDF, some of them from other government, arms of government. We would like to say thank you so much for coming to witness and celebrate with us today. I would like to say to our students from the School of Social Sciences and generally from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, you are very blessed that you have had the opportunity to witness this when you are still so young, with the chances of refocusing and making sure that you direct all your energies to this kind of progression. So we'd like to invite you to witness this, to celebrate it, and to enjoy it, and to know that you can actually finally make it. On behalf of the School of Social Sciences, I would again like to congratulate Professor Phillip Kasaija for making us feel proud of you because of your special achievement, for working so hard, and would like to continue to benefit from your excellent mentorship, teaching, and service for the community. Once again, special welcome to all of you, and please enjoy the occasion. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, we acknowledge members from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, and also have been told in the room we also have members of faculty from other colleges. We have the Dean School of Economics from the College of Business and Management Sciences. I'm also glad that the Dean School of Social Sciences has acknowledged the tremendous support and collaboration from UPDF. Could we give UPDF a befitting hand clap? Yes, that is a good partnership involving the academia, government, military, and other sectors. In a very special way, permit me also to recognize Professor Gilbert Kadiagala from University of Wits, South Africa. Prof, if you could stand and wave to the Vice Chancellor, I might need to see you. Thank you very much. We are glad that you're part of us. Members, let us welcome the next speaker, and that is the Academic Registrar of Makerere University, Professor Buyinza Mukadas. Let us welcome him. You're welcome.
Dear Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, members of Council and Senate, my colleagues in University Management, distinguished faculty, students, and all our invited guests, good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure and indeed an honor to attend such an event in my capacity as the academic registrar, but most importantly, as Secretary to Senate. Of course, this is an important occasion where we are going to receive a professorial lecture. It's not only a hallmark of scholarly achievement, but it gives inspiration to all our colleagues in the research and academic fields of the university. Professorial lectures, the way we take it in the academic circles of this university, represents the pinnacle of academic achievement. And we want to congratulate you, Professor Phillip, Kasaija, for reaching this milestone. Of course, in my capacity, it gives me special pleasure to note that this lecture underscores the centrality of academic growth in the university, and also, of course, research integrity, in addition to continuous pursuit for excellence in research and academia. Colleagues of mine, we want to note that today's lecture is therefore not only a ceremony, but most importantly, it's an opportunity for us to reflect on the knowledge economy, the academia, give inspiration, and most importantly, engage intellectually. And I believe by the end of the session, we should have done that. Therefore, I wish to commend you, Professor, once again. I wish to commend you, Professor Kasaija, once again for this remarkable milestone. Your work, of course, exemplifies the ideals of Makerere University. We are a research entity, we are a training institution, and of course, we attach great importance to translation of knowledge to shape not only policy, practice, and also the progress, but most importantly, transformation of society. Let me take this singular honor, of course, to thank the university management for giving us space to continue engaging intellectually, but also to support all our endeavors that promote research and scholarship in this country. I want to once again thank the organizing committee for all of the effort you put in leading to this very brilliant event of the night, or tonight. Your commitment to sustaining this important academic tradition is highly appreciated. Of course, as we listen to the inaugural lecture, I want to encourage you to engage critically, reflect deeply, but most importantly, of course, think about and also draw inspirations that will enrich your respective areas of specialty, your work and scholarship as an individual. With these remarks, it is my singular honor and privilege to invite the Vice Chancellor, Makerere University, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, to give remarks to the audience. You're welcome, sir.
Our special guest, the Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi, thank you for gracing this occasion with your presence. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, principals and the members of management, our Mugole, Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli, members of staff, students, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Professorial inaugural lectures are a very important part of a university. It is a time when the university displays the knowledge that it has created to the public. It is the time when professors talk to the public in a language they understand, and they leave behind all the political jargon for political scientists and all the formulae for scientists, and make the public understand the knowledge that they have created. It is also an occasion for professors to inspire the younger generation to display the knowledge that they have created over time in a very short lecture, and also to define the vision they have for future work. Makerere University values professorial inaugural lectures very much, and that's why we have come up with a new policy which simplifies the way inaugural lectures should be conducted. This is the very first one under the new policy, where the powers have been devolved to the colleges. I want to congratulate you, Professor Apuuli, because you are the very first one under this. But what this means, and I saw the chair of the organizing committee say something like that, it is a challenge to all of us, including me, by the way, who have not yet conducted their inaugural professorial lectures. We have got a deadline set by the council under the new policy. All of us are supposed to conduct our lectures within 2 years from the time the policy was published, which leaves us with only 1.5 years. And looking at the timetable, it means if all of us, professors and associate professors, are to meet that deadline, there will be a lecture in either this hall or at the college every day in the next 1.5 years. So please take note. This is a very serious business. Professor Apuuli is a renowned researcher, an accomplished scholar. I have attended several of his lectures here at conferences. He's always invited to talk on issues of peace, the military. I don't know, he never trained as a general, but he's always, you are not a general, but he's accomplished in these matters to the extent that he has ventured into exploring that trip by African leaders to Russia and Ukraine. Not many people expected that Africa would attempt to bring huge powers of the world to negotiate among themselves. And it is important that we understand why they did that and what happened after and why it happened. And Professor Apuuli is going to tell us that today. I take this opportunity to thank you for tackling a subject of international nature, which very well demonstrates the international nature of our university. I do believe that with the lecture that you are going to give this afternoon, Makerere's stature as a global university will go even higher. I am anxious to listen to you just like everybody else is. And of course, I must wish you success in your lecture. Here we don't mark, but we shall listen. We shall listen. And I do hope that in the end, you'll be approved as a full professor who has given his inaugural lecture. Thank you once again for making Makerere proud, and thank you for setting the pace for the rest of us.
Another round of applause for our Vice Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen. A big one. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, dear Vice Chancellor. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce a few more people in the room. We have the head, Gamsu, Professor Sylvia Antonia Nachimera Nanyonga Tamsuza. You clapped early. I was supposed to finish the names. You're welcome, Prof. We also have the Executive Director for the Julius Nyerere Leadership Center, Dr. Susan Nansozi Mwanga. Susan, yeah. And we have the Dean, School of Social Sciences, my Dean, Dean Justice Tumwesije. We also have the Dean, School of Liberal and Performing Arts, Dr. Pamela Hanawa. Welcome, Doctor. We have the Acting Dean, School of Languages, Literature and Communication, Dr. Levis Mogumia. Welcome, Dr. Mogumia. We also have the Dean, School of Psychology, Dr. Martin Baluko. I think he has walked out. And then we have people from other colleges. We recognize you. We are sorry we are not going to introduce your deans, but we see you and we appreciate it. Today is for Choose That Mine of Excellent Minds. So allow me to introduce our Deputy Principal, Professor Eric Awich Ochen. Those are the people that are steering the college. And finally, our team leader, our principal, Professor Helen Nambalirwa Nkavala. And in the same vein, allow me to invite Professor Nambalirwa to take us through reading for us the citation for Professor Kasaija. Welcome, Prof. Friends, it's on days like this that we make meaning of belonging to the academia. Allow me to ride on the existing protocols established by the MCs, but in a very special way, welcome our very special guests, Honorable Canon. We are very delighted to have you, and also to tap into the blessings of the Canon at this very time. Our dear Vice Chancellor and our dear Deputy Vice Chancellors, AR, we are very delighted. My job is very easy, but before I proceed, allow me acknowledge the presence of Professor Kasaija's family. Please stand up. We really want to thank you for enabling him serve Makerere University and also grow to where we are. Thank you for coming. And allow me also acknowledge the presence of Professor Apuuli's classmates. Please stand up. Those are very special people to us. Probably they shaped who Professor is today. And allow me to acknowledge the presence of all the students from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences who are by default Professor Apuuli's laboratory where he experimented until he grew. Please stand up. Okay, thank you very much. Without digressing, my role is very simple. But Professor Apuuli, before I speak, I'm requesting the media team to just give you a message from someone very special to you.
I'd like to send a very warm welcome to you all from Sussex in England. I'm Professor Richard Vogler. I'm an emeritus professor at the University of Sussex, which Professor Kasaija will remember very well, I think. I would like to take this opportunity of sending my congratulations to Philip on his inaugural lecture. I'm not at all surprised at or to learn about Philip's distinguished academic career. It was my great pleasure to supervise him for his first his LLM in International Criminal Law and then his doctorate at the University of Sussex, which he completed, I think, about 20 years ago. His subject was procedural due process safeguards in the prosecution of genocide suspects, the case of International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, national genocide trials and the Gacaca courts in Rwanda. Fascinating topic, which Philip handled extremely well. I remember Philip as a really model doctoral student who contributed a great deal to the academic life of the university. I very much enjoyed our doctoral supervisions and our conversations about his work, and he undertook some very demanding field work. I will be travelling this Friday, so I won't be able to catch the lecture in person, but I'm looking forward to the recording. And the topic which Philip has chosen for today sounds to me a really, really fascinating one, reflecting what I can see as Philip's lifelong and very passionate commitment to the peaceful and lawful resolution of conflict. I'm sure that you're all in for a very, very interesting time. It's so impressive to see African leaders with their own profound experiences undertaking peace missions to troubled countries elsewhere in the world. We really need this expertise, and we should all be joining our hands in this endeavour. And the truly international world of academic research is the essential foundation for this work. Scholars such as Philip are at the forefront. So congratulations again, Philip. I hope that we have the chance before long to reminisce about your days at Sussex University, and we here are so proud of all your achievements.
So, Professor Apuuli, I bring you greetings from your dear supervisor. Friends, I would like to present to you the man from Paro Village, Mugusu Sub-County, Kabarole District. Professor Philip Kasaija Apuuli is a professor of political science in the Department of Political Science and Public Administration here at Makerere University. Professor Apuuli has served in various capacities. If you have the book, you will see his academic journey, where he starts his primary school until he makes it to the level at Sussex. Professor Apuuli has worked as an advisor in conflict prevention, management, and resolution. He has also been a facilitator for Somalia Peace and National Reconciliation for the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, that's IGAD. He also has been an authority. He has also been a British Academy Fellow at Oxford University. Professor Apuuli has also been to Florida Stetson Law School, Florida, USA, as a fellow. Apuuli is also the winner of the 2009 Mary Kingsley Lecture Prize of the Royal African Society and African Studies, and
to the Association of the United Kingdom. His most recent publications include, and we are just mentioning a few, that's why we call them recent, Uganda and Tanzania in Evert Kaylands and Marco Willis as publishers. Also, he has a handbook of African defense and armed forces published by the Oxford Press in 2025. He has also published Stabilizer or Medla, Reflections on Uganda's March 2025 Military Intervention in the Republic of South Sudan. And he gives insight, it's in the Insight on Africa 2026. He has also published Borders and Boundaries in the Anne and Shah Moses Kisa at the Alessia and Dolovu, who were the editors. And this is in the Encyclopedia of Elgar on African Politics. It's also 2026. Apuuli is also an adjunct professor at the several military academies in the East African region, including the Uganda Military Academy Kavamba, Uganda, UPDF Senior Command and Staff College, Chimaka, and the UPDF Defense College in Ninjeru, and the Rwanda Defense Forces Command and Staff College in Musanze, Rwanda. In July 2026, Apuuli was appointed professor of the Tambo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs, the University of South Africa, Pretoria, Republic of South Africa. So the person that we present to you has spanned geographical boundaries, has also spanned different spaces and time. Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli was promoted to full professor in February 2025 here at Makerere University. Please receive Professor Kasaija Apuuli. And as he comes, we are delighted that after giving us his words and thoughts and the lecture, we shall be having Professor Kadiagala giving us his thoughts about this lecture. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me read on the protocol that has been established by the previous speakers. But I want to thank especially my classmates. It's been a while, but at least they have managed to come here. So I want to foreground my presentation by mentioning three things. One, that this lecture which you are going to receive this afternoon is published in South African Journal of International Affairs, volume 32, issue number 4, pages 579 to 606. So it's a published paper. The second thing is for those of you who are in doubt on what this occasion is supposed to be, a professorial lecture normally is supposed to do three things. One, present the professor's research journey. Two, major contributions. And then lastly, future academic direction. But also there's something else which is also equally important, which is providing an opportunity for the broader public to engage with the professor's ideas. This is why we are here. Lastly, number 3, this presentation really covers things that I've been working on. The issues of geopolitics, the issue of African agency, African international relations, and lastly, mediation. So I'll go direct to what I need to say. I was one time talking with the Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi, and he invited me to his office to discuss a project that he was working on, which is the Africa Global Security Foundation. I don't know whether the Prime Minister still remembers. So as we were having our discussion, so he said, but we think that Africa can make a contribution in Ukraine and Russia. And he works with something called the Brazzaville Foundation, which was very central in organizing this. And he said, but are you really serious? You can do this? And said, yes, we are going to go to Moscow and engage with the President Putin, and we go to Ukraine, to Kiev, to engage with President Zelensky. So I asked him, so where is the plan? What is the plan? And he said there was no plan at that time. I said, but what are you going to do? So that tickled me, and I said, look, what I will do is let me try and think. But later on, of course, when the meeting happened, when the three presidents and another three representative presidents traveled to Ukraine, when he came back and he was asking, he said, didn't you see? I told you that we are going to do this. So this is what inspired me to write this. But as a way of introduction, I would want to say this, that Africa is a continent of paradoxes. The way the continent has been defined and described. On one hand, we have people who have defined the continent as shackled continent, dark continent, hopeless continent, perpetually dominated continent, hemmed-in continent, and there are all these sorts of descriptions that you can think of. And when you look in the mainstream literature of international relations, there is a very interesting finding that I saw, which is that Africa contributes nothing to theory in international relations. I don't know whether that is true, but on the other hand, we have a continent which has been described as not merely a provider of deviant cases, but also a laboratory of theory building. So we have this binary sort of image of the continent. And at one time I saw there is a very nice headline which appeared in the Economist magazine, which said Africa rising. So I want to reconcile these two things. And second, the other paradox which I also find is that the continent is riddled with all sorts of conflicts. We have identity conflict, ethnic conflict, resource conflict, governance, insurgencies, and all that. While we have solutions, sometimes we participate in these processes, Sudan, Somalia, South Sudan. But most of these conflicts are mediated by people from outside the continent. So these paradoxes, I find it's a little bit strange. So how then do we reconcile? How do we then say that we can go outside and mediate a conflict between Russia and Ukraine? So against this background, that's why we come to this mission, what we've called the Africa Peace Mission. The Africa Peace Mission comprised of 6 countries: Egypt, South Africa, Zambia, Uganda, Republic of Congo, and Senegal. So presidents of 3 countries, South Africa, if I remove my head, South Africa, Zambia, traveled to Kiev and Moscow. And these presidents, what they did was to present a 10-point peace plan. Now, this 10-point peace plan, when you look at it, it talks about a number of things. One, all sides to listen to each other respectfully, that the conflict should be settled through dialogue and negotiations, de-escalation on both sides, recognition of sovereignty as enshrined in the United Nations Charter, security guarantees, supply chain guarantees, humanitarian support. And then we have another 2, release of prisoners of war by both Russia and Ukraine, post-war reconstruction efforts, and then lastly, African states to remain engaged with the problem. Now, when this proposal was presented to President Zelensky and President Putin, it was received very cordially, but at the same time, there was no firm commitment that the 2 countries were going to follow what the African peace team was presenting. In fact, President Zelensky outrightly rejected the mission, the plan. Why? Because it did not go to the heart of why Ukraine was struggling, which is maintaining its sovereignty. On the other hand, when the team went to Moscow, President Putin said, look, yes, you have come, but what we are going to do is you need to recognize the plan that you are presenting. You need to recognize the new realities in Ukraine, which is the occupation of eastern Ukraine by Russia. And of course, those of you who know, we have 6 provinces which are occupied, or 6 regions of Ukraine which are occupied by Russia. Crimea, Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, Luhansk, and Donetsk. So 20% of the territory of Ukraine is occupied, as I speak, is occupied by Russia. So, so this presentation is about this reflection. So what does it mean for us to have a peace team which goes to negotiate an international problem, but also at the same time we need to understand what was the motivation of the African leaders. Why did we have to put up this team to go and try to resolve these problems? Because for a very long time, it's a matter of fact that Africa has been marginalized in many of these spaces. As I said, we don't contribute anything to theory, according to some texts, but how come that now we have come out to resolve this? So I will not talk about the history of the conflict in Ukraine and Russia. This is well known, but the fact simply is this, that one, today on the 21st of August 2026, it is exactly 1,638 days since the outbreak of that war on February 22nd, 2022. 1,638 days. Each side, there have been many peace processes which have been proposed. In fact, on the table we have 6, one by Ukraine, one by Russia, one by the United States, one by Europe, and then we have 2, one which is combined, which is Brazil and China, and the last one is Turkey. So all these processes try to say something about how do we resolve this problem. Unfortunately, it has not, none of those processes has managed to come to an agreement. We don't have an agreement. And generally, I think, and from where I sit, I think we are now in a state of strategic stalemate. In other words, Russia cannot achieve its objectives, but also equally, Ukraine cannot be defeated. So we are basically in a situation of strategic stalemate. Now, the other question which possibly would arise would be, or which I would want to address, is the composition of the African peace team. What motivated the choosing of the 6 countries? Number one, there are countries within the team which were perceived to be pro-Russia. Now here you have countries like the Republic of Congo, South Africa, and Uganda. These are countries which were perceived to be pro-Russia. So in other words, if we are going to present a peace plan, it would reflect, you would have to have people, countries that would be pro-Russia, for purposes of Russia accepting the peace plan. On the other hand, you had countries which were considered to be pro-Ukraine. And these are countries like Zambia, Senegal, which of course, and Egypt, which voted not to condemn Russia's aggression in Ukraine. So the perception was these are countries which were aligned to Ukraine. But also you had another country, which is Comoros. Comoros was roped into the process because at that time, Comoros were the chair of the African Union. So the selection of these 6 countries is reflective of those interests that I have just presented. The second thing which we need to note on the composition of the team was the language. That for language played a role in the composition of the 6, or speaking of the 6 countries, because for purposes of selling the process to the African continent. So you have representative of people who are speaking Arabic, Egypt, French, Republic of Congo, Comoros, Congo, and Senegal, and then of course English, Republic of South Africa, Uganda, and Zambia. And lastly, or no, second last, the economic incentive of why this team was picked. Now, at the beginning of this crisis, there was this perception that, because those of you who do not know, Ukraine and Russia supply a lot of fertilizers and wheat. So at the beginning of the conflict, there was this perception that this war would result in less food for the continent. And indeed, there are countries which suffered from, at the beginning, which suffered from food shortages because of the non-importation of wheat and fertilizers. And there are quite a number of countries on the continent, Egypt, Ethiopia. But later on, it was realized that actually this whole thing had been overwiped because there was an agreement, what we call the Black Sea Grain Agreement of June 2023, which resulted in Ukraine being able to export its grain even when it was in a situation of war. But part of the motivation of this team was to say that let's go and have a discussion so that these supply chains are not disrupted. Now, the last reason is basically historical. Many of the countries that constituted this team were basically countries that at one time or another benefited from the Soviet Union, especially when they were fighting for independence. So the ANC in South Africa, of course, even us here in Uganda, if you read the story of NRM, part of it is defined by these relations with the Russian Federation, but stroke the Soviet Union. Now, just quickly, why, and really this is the gist of what I would want to say. Why did the APM initiative fail to gain traction? Because having listened to all this, presented a 10-point peace plan, explained to President Putin and explained to President Zelensky, why did the belligerents not really take the African peace proposals seriously? And I have a number of reflections. Number one, I think from by June 2023, the conflict in Russia and Ukraine, or between Ukraine and Russia, was not yet ripe for resolution. Those of us who know mediation theory, we have what we call the theory of ripeness. You cannot resolve a conflict if the belligerents still think that they can win on the battlefield. If you do any intervention that is going to distort their plans, that proposal will not succeed. And practically, I can tell you this, I have seen this on the different peace processes that have been involved on the continent. South Sudan, with the agreement of 2015, revitalized in 2018. One of the reasons why we became very creative, in fact, some South Sudanese have told me that I'm a problem because we proposed this structure of 1+5. 1 president, 5 vice presidents. It's the only country in the world that has that kind of arrangement. But if you want to understand the conflict in South Sudan, if you want to understand the structure of South Sudan society, which is comprised of there are 64 ethnic groups in South Sudan. These 3 groups exist in 3 regions, Upper Nile, Equatoria, and Baragazal. Each of those tribes want to be part of government. So we had to be very creative. So you get a president who is a Dinka, a vice president who is a Niue, a vice president who is a Niue, a vice president who is a Bari, a vice president who is a Shuluk, a vice president who is a Dinka but a woman. So we had to be very creative. And that's how we do these things. So you have to be very, very creative. But the question simply is this, or the issue simply is this, that if you are going to have, you need 2 things in order to succeed as a mediator. You need to intervene when it is right to intervene. So you need to have that ripe moment. But also you need another thing, which is leverage. Leverage on the parties. If the parties cannot listen to you, forget, you cannot be a mediator. Forget. So you need to be able to provide the carrots and the sticks. And as far as the Africa Peace Team was concerned, there were no carrots, it did not have carrots, it never had any stick. So in other words, this was just an exercise where you go, you talk to people, and that's it. They listen to you, and that's it. So that's my first reflection. The second reflection simply is this, that when I took a look at the peace plan was underdeveloped. The 10 points were just basically points. There were no details. If you say you are de-escalating, what is de-escalation? Does it mean that de-escalation could mean many things? Russia withdrawing from Ukraine, Ukraine accepting the status quo, Ukraine freezing the front line. But this was not defined by the APM. So in other words, this peace plan was not a peace plan at all. It was just a wish list. It's just a wishful thinking. So this is my second reflection. The third reflection simply is that the peace plan itself received mixed views on the continent. Some people think that this peace plan was basically a trip which the leaders undertook because they had to go to show that they could also undertake a trip. But there was nothing beyond that. So, and this becomes very problematic. Why? Because also it goes to the heart of what we call African agency. Agency meaning simply that Africa can also take action. Now, this taking action, what does it mean? That Africa also can take independent decisions. Again, what does this mean? It means that in global conversations, because many times we're absent in global conversations, when I normally do mediation, the first thing which I tell the belligerents is that you need to be at the table. Because there's this very cliche, in fact it has become a cliche, where we say if you are not at the table, you become the menu. You'll be part of the menu. You'll be eaten. So this is part of the African agency. So meaning that, yes, the APM undertook this mission, which we should, or which was received, but to some sections of the people. In fact, in the South African press, I was reading the South African press because President Cyril Ramaphosa was the chairman of this group that went to Ukraine and Russia. They called it the ego trip of Ramaphosa. Because Ramaphosa had issues at home, in order to deflect the issues at home, he had to undertake this trip to show that South Africa is still relevant. Now, I don't know whether that description of the trip will be true, but I just only want to say that I really don't have an opinion whether it was an ego trip by Ramaphosa or not. But I can only say that the trip was undertaken because that is a fact. Now, the other reflection which I have is to this plan, did it represent the African continent? The answer is no. How do I know this? It was not supported by the African Union. The African Union is not comprised of 6 countries. The African Union is comprised of 55 countries. But it's only 6 which went. So with this plan, a reflection of the continent, normally when Africa takes decision, we have what we call the Common Africa Positions, reform of the United Nations, common position on agriculture, common position on natural resources. But this was not reflective of the common position of the African continent. And presumably this is where we fail, or this is where it was not taken seriously, because the team did not mobilize enough to have the African continent back its proposal when it visited Ukraine and Russia. In fact, one commentator has said that when he looked at all the countries that comprised the trip, basically this was really, these countries could only speak for themselves. They could not speak for the continent. Lastly, on my reflections, in the aftermath of the, you're asking me in the aftermath of the plan, what has happened to the APM? It seems nobody even remembers that there was ever a mission to Ukraine by the Africans. So what happened? When President Trump became president, was campaigning to become president, he said he would end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours. Now, I don't know if you can calculate from January 20th, 2025 to date. I don't know how many hours have passed, but I have not seen a resolution of the conflict by the United States. In fact, the United States presented a 28-piece plan, 28-point peace plan. If you look at these 28 points, basically it is not very different from the African proposals. But there's no acknowledgement that some of those proposals appeared in the APM which came earlier. Now, me as an academic, I would have accused the United States of plagiarism, but I will not do that. I will not do that. Part of the reason, of course, also, I don't want to be sanctioned, you know. But we have a 28-piece plan. This 28-point peace plan has been counter-managed by another 28-piece plan by the Europeans, mainly drawn by United Kingdom, Germany, and France. So you'll ask him, so what has happened to the APM? The APM basically has been forgotten. Nobody talks about it. Nobody even discusses it anymore. Possibly when I have a chance to talk to the Prime Minister, we may have to reminisce about the APM, but it will only be just for purposes of making ourselves happy. not that we are going to resolve the problem in Ukraine and Russia. So in all this, having said all this, what is my conclusion? My conclusion simply is this, that I think while not being very successful, we should also welcome that Africans can constitute themselves and also try to flex their muscles to be seen to be doing something on some of these issues. Of course, I'm also aware that the cynics would say that, you see, we have enough problems on the continent. Why would we want to resolve problems outside when we have issues of Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, the Sahel, Mozambique? But we should also be very proud that we can actually do this. The 10-point peace plan certainly failed to gain traction, but we have reason to celebrate it. Why? Because the belligerents themselves, at least, even for anything, even if not for anything else, even to listen to African leaders, just that in itself, we should celebrate it. So we should not dismiss that in itself, that President Putin can sit and say these Africans have come, I'm going to listen to them. That in itself, we should be celebrated. The second thing which I need to mention before I end is that, yes, the APM has faded from the scene. But that it took place at all is also a plus. We should celebrate it as Africans. Because increasingly, at least that shows that we are being assertive. We are no longer a footnote. We are no longer a problem to be resolved. If you look at the mainstream literature, Africa is a problem to be solved, which is absolutely not correct. Because this in itself demonstrates that we are not a problem. We can also be a solution. So we should always say cheers to the APM. Lastly, what am I recommending? And I only have 2 recommendations for people who are going to do this in the future. One is that we need to prepare enough. When we are crafting these proposals, let's put details. Let's put thoughts into these proposals so that they do not appear to be scant, they do not appear to be statements of wishes. My second thing simply is mobilization. If you are going to carry Africa, 55 countries, from Senegal or from Dakar to Hargeisa, from Tunis to Cape Town, we have to mobilize. Mobilization simply means that if we have a plan, the plan should be supported from Cape to Cairo, from Hargeisa to Dakar. I thank you.
Choose Oye, Professor Kasaija Oye. A wonderful round of applause for Professor Kasaija. Well done, Prof. I want to be like you when I grow up. You have really done us proud. Now, as we invite Professor Kadiabala, I want you to allow me to introduce one more person. In our midst, we are honored to have the Minister of State for Internal Affairs, Honorable Juma Witonzi. Welcome, Honorable Minister. Prof, the floor is yours. He's coming to give us reflections on Professor Kasaija's reflections. He's reflecting on the reflections.
Your Excellencies, former Prime Minister, Mr. Mbabazi, the Vice Chancellor, Deans, Professors, students, lecturers, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm happy to be part of this occasion because Phillip has been my friend for quite a while and is a man I respect profoundly. So coming to respond to his reflections is actually a big honor for me. And I was happy that I was in Makerere at this moment to in fact be part of this occasion. Inaugural lectures, as it has already been stated, are global events that acknowledge excellence. that acknowledge that somebody has put in the work and he deserves the respect of an academic. I'm happy, therefore, to be part of this occasion because no friend of mine at this point deserves this more than Phillip. So that's why I'm very happy to be in this hall. My reflections are threefold. Won't say a lot. One is, what is the contribution of Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli to this subject that he's already presented? And my response to that is, one is theoretical and conceptual. The Vice Chancellor has already told us not to speak about theory, but I seek your indulgence to in fact say Phillip has contributed conceptually and theoretically to issues around mediation. And he's already told us. What does that theory say? It simply says, how do external actors intervene in a conflict between two parties or two countries? Where do they get the leverage? Where do they get the strength? Who invites them? And what is the outcome of that invitation? And this is an issue that scholars of mediation have been grappling with for so many years. So his contribution is to say, to what extent, therefore, does this case of Africans going to intervene to mediate in Ukraine, what does it tell us about how foreign actors, in this case African countries, go to Europe to intervene, to mediate, to try to resolve that conflict? So that is the theoretical contribution. The second one is, African countries have been trying since the 90s to come up with what are called African solutions to African problems. What does that mean? How can we draw from our own resources, our own cultures, our own experiences to help build what we are calling mediation institutions in Africa? Because as he's already mentioned also in passing, we have too many conflicts in Africa. So the search for African solutions to African problems is not a simple problem. It's a huge problem. And we've been doing this since the 90s. So this research that is presented to us gives us an angle into how, in fact, we come up with these solutions. Whether they're indigenous, whether we can borrow from other people, it is important to understand the content of African solutions. The third thing that he contributes to knowledge is to say, how do African countries then go to Europe and try to find solutions to European problems? Russia and Ukraine been in a war. The African countries begin to say, this is also our conflict because it affects our economies. We've not been invited by Europe. In fact, Europe is not going to invite African countries to go and mediate in a conflict in Ukraine and Russia. So the beauty of what the Africans do is say, we will invite ourselves. We'll go in as a weaker party. We'll go in using our own moral force as Africans, the power of the weak. It exemplifies, therefore, the ability of Africans to say, we are part of the global order. We are part of the global peace-building architecture. We can go to Russia and we can try to suggest, to prescribe solutions. And that's why he talks about the 10-point plan that the African countries put on board. And they told the Russians and Ukraine, please, even if you don't take the 10, please try to at least address some of the core issues around this conflict, because this is also an African conflict. So that to me is a big contribution. How do African countries step up to the plate, if we could use the American notion? How do they come up and propose solutions? Finally, I think this study is important. Is hinted to the notion of African agency. How do Africans pick up the mantle to begin to help other countries? Because even if African countries fail in Ukraine and Russia, there is a learning experience that we get from these kinds of mediation, so that when African countries come back to Africa, they say, we went to Ukraine and Russia. What did we do wrong? How could we do things better? So I think that knowledge of having intervened in Ukraine and Russia is important, because now they can come back and then go to Sudan, as you are mentioning, Professor Apuuli. How then do we use these experiences to do a better job? Finally, what I want to say is that this work is important and it should be read by everybody, because I think it was one of the first African efforts to try to intervene outside Africa. That to me is an important contribution. So we should celebrate it, even if we didn't do a good job. But I also want to say that I also have worked on this conflict, and I know that in fact there is a lot that we can learn from African interventions, from African experiences, as we try to sell our own experiences of peacemaking and peace building to the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. I'm really going to work very hard and become a professor. You really, really made it very simple. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite our first Deputy Vice Chancellor, our Deputy Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, our very own in Choose. Oh, yeah. Our very own, Isaac, don't look at me like that, our very own Professor Sarah Sally, to congratulate our Mugole. Professor Sarah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam MC. Before I congratulate my Mugole, our Mugole, sorry, can I invite all the classmates, Omach, and all the others. Please come to the podium. Today's our day, through Phillip, Kasaija, Apuuli. Through FIPPO. Even FIPPO should join us. Where's the door? You didn't call there?
No, those are my other classmates.
Yeah?
Secondary school.
No. These are secondary school? At the university? Okay. So we have two sets of classmates. We have those from primary school.
No,
secondary school, please raise your hands. Senior 1 to senior 6, Nyakasura?
No, SMAC. You want to insult us.
Yes, so we have the set from SMAC, 6 years. And you have the 3 of us from Makerere University, political science class. Actually, same discussion group, Mitchell Hall. One of us is not here today, that's Professor Chiza Julius. But the 3 of us are here, and the 6 of us are here to celebrate Phillip. Phillip, we congratulate you upon this great milestone. It is indeed great I remember when we joined, of course, you were as vibrant as you are. Omach was always the quiet one. He always observed things from the horizon. He never spoke much, but today is not his day. Today we are celebrating Phillip. Phillip has always been a man of great ideas. He has always been very hardworking. It's not a surprise that we are here today. And I know when we left the university, I did have an opportunity to work with you in so many other areas, like REDET, Tanzania, Bagamoyo. That's the research and education for East Africa, I think. We have also worked together at Carnegie's Next Gen program, and we continue to work collaboratively together. I think before the Chimaka group started, you already associated with Monduli and Karen. So Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, his journey with the military generals is a long one, and it starts from the region. It only returned home recently. So Phillip has always been a very hardworking person. Whether it was in class, and we used to have our classes here with Professor Mamdan. So whether it was in class or it was in the discussion group, Phillip approached everything with a lot of vigor. And for us, when we met in the discussion groups, we actually met to discuss the issues. So our discussion groups were real debates over buns and black tea in Mitchell Hall, where they lived. So, so we congratulate you, and it's not a surprise that Phillip has reached where he is. I think immediately we finished, they were immediately hired. They went to the UK before me, Omach to Cambridge and Phillip to Sussex. Yeah, then I joined them later in Edinburgh. So it has been a journey where we have continued to challenge each other and encourage each other to aspire. So today we celebrate the fact that Phillip has done this journey before us. So you have really inspired us. We thank you for showing us the way. Ever since I became a professor, I've been writing my presentation for the last 2 to 3, no, I was made a professor last year. So I started right away because I had this goal. We promote the same day. We promote the same day? Okay, then you are better than me, as I've said. So I started right away. I had a target of making my inaugural within the first 6 months. So initially I wrote a manuscript, then I went to a PowerPoint, then I decided I don't want to do a PowerPoint, then I want to do a manuscript, and the more I have attended, the more I realize my presentation doesn't add up. So today, I have been inspired even more to now go and patch. I'm going to pick the insights you have used and really come up with my inaugural. But before I finish, I want each one to say one word they know about Phillip, please. Say one thing about Phillip.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Phillip has been a very good friend, not only at the academic level, but also socially. When I went to get married, he's the one who carried the gourd with the local drinks on the head. So we go quite a long way and very close. And actually, we spend a lot of time together. Now we are the 2 old men in the department. So when Phillip is not around, I feel out of place because now I find myself dealing only with the young children. So Phillip, you are a real inspiration. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
All protocol observed. My names are RSU Henry Chigundu Chiddu, Registered Surveyor of Uganda. I've known Professor Apuuli from 1983. When we were senior 1, St. Mary's College, Chisubi. He was in Chiwanka House. SMAC was basically a sciences school, as you see here, Dr. Kamtera, Kayanja. But Professor Apuuli, with the late Chiapi and the late Kataiwaho, they were very strong in the arts subject. When we came back in HSC Senior 5, Professor Apuuli was made our Minister of Self-Reliance. So he has been a leader since. He was in charge of the slashers, the halls. So, keeping the school clean. And you can imagine what that takes, because these are smart boys, they are not jokers, with a lot of ego. So, we came here, I was with him even here at Makerere, because I was in, they used to call it North Court Hall, I don't know these days. So, we graduated in the same year, that was Feb 1993. So, we have been together. Thereafter, I also went to the UK, did my master's. We have been crisscrossing, so I would like really to congratulate him. We used to eat what we call chibuga. I don't know if anyone knows what that is. No. That is fried cassava. So, Professor, congratulations. And the members of the SMAC OBs, they have sent you their greetings and a few presents which I've already handed over. But we are very, very happy. We are also business associates. So we have formed as OBs, we have a circle, and we are still, intertwined. About 52 members, so it's good we are still together. And I'm happy that you are associating with the top of the top.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something? Like one word? Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Before you go, so one of the things he did excel well in class, which made him major in international relations, was the paper we used to call the United Nations, taught by Professor Ginjera Pinchwa, and Middle East by Dr. Mkwaya. I don't know where he is, but we can see that out of that class of undergrad, he has continued to excel on the international scene, even with regard to things like rethinking the East African Federation, you remember? So we have done a great job. I just want to say that while they landed in political science, I ended up in what is called the female side of political science, and that was gender studies. Thank you very much. So congratulations, Philip. We wish you all the best. And thank you, the leadership of CHUS, for organizing this. And thank you, Makerere University Management, for the strategic direction of making the inaugural lectures this fun. Thank you very much, Professor Nawangwe and your management team. The rest of you can go. So it's not only classmates who are interested in congratulating Professor Kasaija Apuuli. There are also those he has associated with in higher circles who would also like to congratulate him on this journey, because they too have shaped his path in life. And please allow me this singular honor to invite the Prime Minister Emeritus, Right Honorable Canon Patrick Amama Mbabazi, to deliver some congratulatory remarks for Professor Phillip. Thank you.
Honorable Wetonze, he came in quickly and left quickly. He's our brand new Minister of State for Internal Affairs. So he's, I didn't want to say he's not very familiar with the protocol yet, but I know he will learn quickly, so. The Vice Chancellor, Professor Nawangwe. Thank you, Professor Sadi, Vice Chancellor in charge of academic affairs. All of you, as you are introduced in your big capacities, Professor Phillip Kasaija, and your family, which I had the pleasure of meeting for the first time today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know, this is the first time, and I want to thank you, Philip, that I have attended a professorial inaugural lecture. I didn't know what to put on, but I hope I am appropriately attired. But I just want to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. You know, I used to stand here and say a lot of things more than 50 years ago. And I continue to speak in bigger forums, but I have recently taken a break. So today is a special day for me to stand before an audience like you. I actually don't think I've addressed an audience like this before. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words following the very thoughtful lecture we have just had. First, let me congratulate Professor Philip Kasaija Apuuli most warmly on attaining this important academic milestone and on delivering his inaugural professorial lecture. So the others, what have you been doing? Oh, sorry for... I'm afraid I may not be conventional in my approach because, as you know, I'm a bit different. But an inaugural, when he invited me, he told me some time ago. So I thought about it, and I had no idea what inaugural professorial lecture meant. So I looked it up, and as has been said earlier by others, it is an important occasion, not only in the life of a scholar, but also in the life of a university. It gives the scholar an opportunity to bring years of study, research, and reflection to bear upon some of the most important questions confronting society. Professor Kasaija has certainly done that for us today. I should perhaps add a personal word about Professor Kasaija. My first substantive interaction with him came when I was preparing to participate in conferences organized by what is called the Future Resilience Forum, a relatively new platform established to examine the common and interconnected threats challenging the post-1945 international order, and to encourage new thinking and networks around foreign and security policy. I am the chairman of the African Global Security, which is a continent-wide, Philip called it foundation, whose job actually is that. I had the distinction of being the first African to participate in the forum. I was therefore very conscious of the responsibility of bringing an African perspective into that international conversation. Professor Kasaija was extremely resourceful in helping me prepare for those engagements. I benefited greatly from his knowledge of international affairs and particularly from his ability to place African perspectives within the wider global debate. I mention this because when I congratulate Professor Kasaija today, I do so not only on account of the excellent lecture we have just heard, but also from my own experience of the depth of his scholarship and the generosity with which he shares his knowledge. I was therefore particularly pleased that for his inaugural lecture, Professor Kasaija chose to reflect on the 2023 African Peace Mission to Ukraine and Russia. As you heard from him, I had the privilege of being closely involved in the preparations for the mission. He omitted my name in his lecture, so I will ask him to amend. I consequently saw something of the considerable work, consultation, and diplomacy that took place behind the scenes before the African leaders traveled to Kyiv and St. Petersburg. What Professor Kasaija has done today is to invite us to look beyond the immediate events of the mission and consider the larger question it raised. What place and what voice should Africa have in the conduct of international affairs? That, to me, is an important question. The African Peace Mission was significant because Africa was not merely commenting from the sidelines on a conflict taking place elsewhere. African leaders were asserting that Africa has both an interest and a legitimate voice in matters of international peace and security. The consequences of war, after all, have never been confined to Europe. African countries have experienced them through disruptions in food and fertilizer supplies, higher energy prices, inflation, and wider economic pressure. Africa, therefore, had every justification to say, we too have a stake in the restoration of peace. There was also another important dimension to the mission. African leaders sought to engage directly with both sides in a major international conflict and to place African perspectives before them. Whether one considers the mission successful or otherwise, and Professor Kasaija has given us much to reflect upon today, the fact that African leaders sought to speak directly to both Kyiv and Moscow was itself significant. This is also why serious academic examination of such initiatives is important. Those of us involved in public affairs tend to experience events from the immediate perspective of policy and diplomacy. We are concerned with what is possible at a particular moment, what can be negotiated, and what practical outcomes might be achieved. The scholar has a different but complementary responsibility to step back, interrogate those events, place them in their historical and international context, and help us understand not only their achievements, but also their limitations and their wider significance. Professor Kasaija has done that for us today. And for those of us who were involved in the preparations for the APM, as he abbreviates it, his analysis gives us an opportunity to look again at an initiative in which we were participants, but whose ultimate significance will be assessed by scholarship and by history. Professor Kasaija, I congratulate you once again on your elevation to the rank of professor. On this thoughtful inaugural professorial lecture and on your contribution to our understanding of Africa's role in international peace, diplomacy, and security. From my own interactions with you, I can also testify to the value of having African scholars who are prepared not only to study these great international questions, but also to ensure that Africa's perspectives are heard within them. I wish you continued distinction in your scholarship and continued service to Makerere University, to our great army, UPDF. I heard him say he's a general. I think he's an honorary general. And your service to Uganda and Africa. Congratulations, my friend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Right Honorable Prime Minister Emeritus, for the wonderful words of wisdom. Could we give him a befitting hand clap? Yes, thank you very much. In line with our program, we have presentation of certificate and plaque by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe. Ladies and gentlemen, when you do good at Makerere University, you're recognized and there is something you're given. Those are items that you're given so that they always remind you about this special day. It's evidence, because at some point, Prof, you might have to tell the grandchildren, I presented my professorial inaugural lecture. So we are glad that today you're going to receive the evidence in the Makerere University way. Okay, in line with our protocol, Professor Sarah Sali kindly return and ably invite the Vice Chancellor to perform this special task of presenting the certificate and plaque to Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli in recognition of his wonderful presentation today for his inaugural professorial lecture. Thank you very much. And may I, oh, you're here, welcome.
Thank you very much. Before I invite the Vice Chancellor, greetings from and congratulations from Professor Katumanga Msambai, University of Nairobi. He has just sent his regards. Okay, so please allow me to invite my boss, the Vice Chancellor, to come and present the plaque. Thank you.
Before I invite Professor Kasaija to come up, Let me just make a few remarks, a few reflections. The first one is that I have very carefully listened to the reflections by the Prime Minister Emeritus. I think you should come here as an honorary professor. In my earlier remarks, I said I was going to listen attentively, and I must say that Professor Apuuli actually enlightened me a lot in his very short speech. I now understand much better what the mission was about, the composition, how it came about. I had never thought about those things. But for me, having lived in the Soviet Union, where the two countries which are at war were part of, I think the mission was successful. Because for the first time, Africans went to lecture to other people. And I think we should not stop. If we want to be respected, let us continue. And Professor Apuuli, in your final words, you were advising those who want to continue research in this, what they should do. You did not tell us what you yourself want to continue doing. So with the powers conferred to me, as the academic leader of the university, I hereby direct you to come up with a detailed plan, because these people went with the points, not a plan. This time, let's go with a plan. Please come up with a detailed plan. I don't know whether you will still want it to be African leaders or professors, to go first to Washington and then to Tehran to mediate the two. I think there we shall get real respect. May I now invite you, sir, to come up.
Oh, a bigger round of applause, people. Prof, before you leave.
So congratulations once again, Professor Apuuli.
So can we have the PR team in charge of this photo moment? Congratulations, Professor Kasaija Apuuli. You have done us proud. You have set the bar so high. Can I?
Just a minute, professors. We need some smiles for the institution. Yes.
She was here.
May I also humbly invite just a minute, Right Honorable Prime Minister Emeritus, kindly join this photo. The Deputy Principal Chus, the Academic Registrar.
And Professor Kadiabara, please. Meanwhile, the family of Professor Apuuli should also get ready. Once we are done with this, we will also invite you over. The smiles, professors, please don't forget the smiles.
And to the rest of us, you may wish to clap. May I also invite the family. This is a special day in the life of Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli. Please, family members, we know that for him to walk this journey, you have been very instrumental in his life. And I was also very happy you were among the first people in the room. That is, okay, as the family comes, there is a college photo. College of Humanities and Social Sciences has been ably represented. Next is the family, and also we request all the professors in the room to prepare. The family has been very instrumental in the life of Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli. It's a special day in his life, and I know that the family occupies a central place in his academic journey and all the different spheres of life. Congratulations. Prof, you're too serious. Yes, and may I also request all the professors in the room to join this photo. So we are starting with all professors. Okay, the ranks include professors and associate professors in the room. Kindly join. If you are at the rank of professor and associate professor and you're in the room, kindly join this photo. Yes, it's the photo moment. It is a very special day for us. Professor Phillip Kasaija has ably
and the smiles. Professor Windsor in the middle.
Yes, Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli has successfully delivered his inaugural professorial lecture here at Makerere University on 21st August 2026. Now, may I request the academic staff to join? The academic staff who remained seated, members of faculty at Makerere University, kindly join Prof.
Congratulations.
Good day, Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli has successfully delivered his inaugural professorial lecture. It's time for the photo moment. Yes. And our dear students, could we encourage our members of faculty with a hand clap to move to the podium? Thank you so much. Emma Carroll, yeah? Hello. Members, photography team, just pause it so that we have, please join the photo. Okay, and if, let us remember to face the right direction, but that comes with happiness. So congratulations. And I've been told I need to dedicate also a special moment to those strictly from School of Social Sciences and the Department of Political Science. School of Social Sciences and the Department of Political Science and Public Administration. It's your turn. School of Social Sciences and the Department of Political Science and Public Administration within the College of Humanities and Social Sciences at Makerere University. Organizing committee. Okay, just hold it. It's a special day. So this is School of Social Sciences. This photo is strictly for the School of Social Sciences. We are live streaming on the Makerere University YouTube channel. We need befitting smiles from the School of Social Sciences. All right. Finally, the organizing committee. Organizing committee. Dear Vice Chancellor, I have a very special request. The Department of Political Science and Public Administration requests you to join them. They have a portrait that is going to be presented to Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli. Members, we had managed time very well. May I have the Department of Political Science and Public Administration? Dear Vice Chancellor, kindly help us join this special moment as the Department of Political Science and Public Administration. This is Political Science and Public Administration. Professor March. On such days, sometimes Professor March needs to be Dr. But members of the Department of Political Science and Public Administration. I think that's it. But VC, I humbly request you to join that particular photo. Please remain. VC, Deputy Principal, when they are holding that portrait, kindly. We are live streaming on the Makerere University YouTube channel. To everyone in the audience, kindly remember that we are live. Your faces, your smiles should be what you would like to see on the Makerere University YouTube channel. Lovely. I think that's excellent. Yes. And I'll now allow the visa and the other part to leave, but Professor Kasaija, we have students in here. Organizing committee, please take your space. And then finally, he's a professor, and I know he mentors students, so the students will take the final photo. That's organizing committee. Organizing committee. And immediately after the organizing committee, those are former students. Okay. Thank you for taking your space. Now, this is the organizing committee. And then as the organizing committee, oh, you were there, Julius. Okay, that's great. And as the organizing committee, former student, kindly position yourself here strategically. Members, former students in the room? There is one who is strategic. So former students, you'll be next. Former students, members, you've realized why it is important that we should have several inaugural professorial lectures. I thought I was going to manage the photo session in 5 minutes, but there are several categories who wish to celebrate with Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli. OBs, please. There is special demand from OBs. Wow, okay. Were there any OGs? No. Okay. Members, courtesy of the Vice Chancellor, together with the Principal of Choose, we prepared very mouth-watering snacks, refreshments, and drinks from all parts of the Pearl of Africa. Kindly don't leave. We are going to celebrate immediately after here. Are those the OBs? Former students? Okay. Finally, dear students in the room, and the students I request. The categories have become so much. Former colleagues, from where? From IGAD. From IGAD. Prof, you're on public demand, but it's your day. So, former colleague from IGAD. Finally, I hope I'm using now the right word. The students in the room. Prof is a mentor, he's a lecturer. Students, could you be very fast if you wish to have a photo moment with Professor? Yes, that is a student sharp. Thank you. Yes. Students, if you wish to be part of this special day, Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli has successfully. Do we have any female students? Oh, you're welcome. Yes, they are present. Prof is a mentor, a lecturer, a supervisor. Thank you very much. I accorded, ladies and gentlemen, the photo moment some more minutes because Professor was on public demand. And so this should inspire the rest of us, especially those at the rank of professor and associate professor, to also ensure that you prepare your professorial inaugural lectures. Members, please don't leave. The Vice Chancellor and the Principal of Choose ensured that we have to celebrate this. We have befitting, mouth-watering snacks. We have all drinks from the Pearl of Africa, and the serving team is set. But this is how we are going to go to that particular direction. We are going to rise for the anthems, and after the anthems, I'll request Professor Helena Mbalirankavala together with the Vice Chancellor to lead Professor Apuuli and his family first, then the rest of us will follow. Members, let us rise for the anthems. We've come to the successful end, and we've witnessed happily Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli delivering his inaugural professorial lecture at Makerere University Main Hall. And to our online participants, both on Zoom and on the Makerere University YouTube channel, we've come to the successful conclusion. Today at Makerere University, Friday, 21st August, 2026, for God and my country as Makerere University builds for the future. Anthems.
Makerere, Makerere, we build for the future, the great Makerere. Great, great and mighty, the walls around thee. Great, great and mighty, the gates beside thee. Great, great and mighty, the walls around thee. Great, great and mighty, the gates beside thee. From east and west, from north and south, all voices singing arise, Makerere. Rise up and rise, high up and high, all voices singing arise, Makerere, Makerere, Makerere. We build for the future, the great Makerere. Great, great and mighty, the walls around thee. Great, great and mighty, the gates beside thee. Great, great and mighty, the walls around thee. Great, great and mighty, the gates beside thee. Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tulilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Okay, kindly take your seats. So the principal choose, kindly lead the Vice Chancellor, Professor Phillip Kasaija Apuuli, the DVC Academic Affairs, the family members to the serving points. Members, we are celebrating this day in style, and we have refreshments from all the different regions in the Pearl of Africa, courtesy of the Vice Chancellor and the Office of the Principal at CHUS. Please join us for, there are professorial handshakes going on. Yes, it's your day. Yes, congratulations for fulfilling this academic requirement in your life. Members, plenty of refreshments from all the regions in the Pearl of Africa. Please join us. Yes, that's lovely. At the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, we are known for our hospitality. And it is now time to prove to the rest